Happy Friday, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Big Blue Kickoff Live right here on Giants.com and the Giants mobile app. I am John Schmelk. He is Paul Dottino. I know we're a little bit later today, as we warned you earlier in the week, because of rookie minicamp today. We heard from Brian Dable. We heard from the Giants' 3 top draft picks, and we watched about an hour and 15 minutes of rookie minicamp. We pushed everything back today, so we'll be able to talk about everything that we saw. Of course, Big Blue Kickoff Live is presented by Cadillac, the official luxury vehicle of the New York Football Giants. Hello, Paul.
Hello, John. Knicks are playing tonight, by the way, in case you forgot.
I'm aware, and it's going to be a tough go, but let's focus on minicamp here, Paul. We haven't had a chance to talk about the undrafted free agents. Before we do that, give me your key takeaways from today. Listen to Brian Dable and then listening to the 3 other draft picks.
Well, you know, over the years, the rookie minicamp has changed significantly from when I started doing this sucker, because nowadays they're not overloading the rookies to try to test them and find out what they can retain. See, that was the old philosophy. It was, we're going to absolutely swarm these guys, snow them under. And part of the test was, how much can they get right? How much can they understand? How much can they give back to us? And how are they going to deal with this avalanche of information that we give them? That's the way it used to be years ago. It's different now. Dable's like, no, we're just going to get these guys acclimated to what we do, how we do things. We'll do some 7-on-7s with the tryout guys. And, you know, we give them some things in the playbook and kind of see what they can do with it. Totally different approach to the way it used to be years ago. And that, to me, John, is the biggest change that I've seen over the years. Because, as you know, we go out there and we watch. And I always used to pick a dark horse undrafted rookie free agent every single rookie minicamp and say, this is my guy. Watch him. He's the guy who's going to make the 53. You can't do that anymore because they're basically not doing anything out there. It's really impossible to sit out there for an hour and a half and actually pick a guy and say, there's enough there to make me chew on. So that's kind of disappointing in a way. But, hey, you know, we're here, and these guys are doing their best and trying to make a good impression.
Yeah, and it's even to the point where Brian, and this is my biggest takeaway from what Brian Dable said today, they basically told their rookie class, like, don't go too hard.
Yeah, well,
because to his point, he said they all did workouts for the combine and the jumps and the pro days and all that stuff. So he doesn't want these rookies to try to do too much too fast and potentially suffer an injury or something like that that'll set them back. So he's basically purposely telling, especially the draft picks and the guys they have signed, don't go all out here, guys. Like, relax, take it slow. You know, don't go nuts. We want to make sure you stay healthy so that when we get you to where we want you to be in a couple months, you're good, healthy, and ready to go. So, to your point, you can't really tell a whole lot from what went on. You know, you watch the guys move around. Neighbors wasn't even going full speed in the route he did do.
No.
So, we don't have much to report in that regard,
because if that was full speed, there's a problem.
Yeah, correct. Absolutely. I will say this. Malik Neighbors was definitely, in the media availability, just more up today. I think when we first
You mean than 2 weeks ago?
Yeah. When we talked to him after the draft, my sense was he flew in the morning after the draft. Probably didn't sleep a ton the night before after he got picked. And, you know, you could tell he was seemed a little tired. But today he was very effervescent. He was into it. I thought he gave some really good answers. Talked about how football saved his life because it was really the only thing that, you know, he ever did that he thought he was good enough to turn into a career. Talked about how he already bought his mom a house.
Last week.
Yeah. It was one of the greatest things he ever did. How his hand was shaking today as he signed his contract as the Giants' first-round pick. So that was a really cool quote out of him. So you could tell he's very excited to be here and get started. And he said, look, he's a patient person. And usually you have these players who will tell you that they're not patient and have to be pushed to be patient. But Neighbors said, I'm a patient person by nature. And he knows that this is going to be, you know, a slow journey here as he kind of catches up to speed with the other players. And Brian Dable said it really depends on the rookie. Some rookies catch up to the veterans by June. Some rookies it takes until August. Other rookies it takes to the regular season. And even deeper into the year before they catch up. So it all depends on the rookie. But I could tell Neighbors is just really excited to get started here, talking to him after practice.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that. And the same for Tyler Newbin, who said he almost shed a tear when he saw the helmet in his locker today. Another guy who really impressed us today at the podium, as did Drew Phillips. All three of the guys. We got the first 3 draft picks today to do a media availability. And to be honest with you, John, Phillips and Newman reminded me of the same guy we saw 2 weeks ago. Very composed, very, very mature.
Thoughtful.
Very polished, professional. The difference, as you mentioned with Neighbors, is that I think he was just battered from the event 2 weeks ago, and so he was a little bit sleepy and maybe not as effervescent as he could have been. He showed us more of that today. But these other two guys, we got exactly what we got 2 weeks ago. They are just as sharp as a tack. I loved Phillips's answer about playing a slot. I mean, did you catch that?
Yeah,
I love the one thing that he said, which really you don't hear cornerbacks talk about this too much. He goes, I take a lot of pride in being able to help my team any way possible. Blah 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 blah. But here was the one quote that I really loved. He goes, he didn't get a chance to play nickel until his junior year at Kentucky. He goes, so much is going on there, especially in the run game, and you often know on third down the ball is coming to you. This guy, he's like a hungry dog. He can't wait to get onto that bone.
And I'll throw another part into that, and you can go back and listen to the Giants Huddle podcast. We talked to his defensive backs coach and defensive coordinator at Kentucky. He talked about he likes to be physical, and he said being a physical corner is really the foundation of what he is as a player, and that goes to him wanting to play the slot as well. And he said, look, growing up, he almost felt like playing the slot was like a punishment, and it's something you didn't want to do, but it's something that he always wanted to do heading into Kentucky. And his DC on the Giants Huddle podcast tells the story of how there was a competition between him and another corner for the outside spot, and he lost that competition, and they moved him inside, and he said he was like excited about it, and he was into it, and we understand why today, because it's a position he always wanted to play, because there is so much going on in there in run support and everything like that. So 100% agree.
Well, the way that teams use 11 personnel all the time these days anyway, I mean, it's not like you go in there and, I'm not going to get a chance to do too much. No, you know that you're going to play.
Yep.
You know you're going to play, so anyway.
And then Newman, I just think you could tell that he's a 5-year player.
Oh,
yeah. He's mature. He's smart. He's an adult. Like, he's going to figure things out quickly. He talked about the Zoom calls that he was on over the past week with his defensive backs coaches getting ready for these practices. And he said it did help him mentally, but it's going to be, he was asked, do you think you could be a leader in year one? He says, I think everybody can be a leader in their own way.
That was impressive.
So I thought that was a good answer. Now, that doesn't mean he's going to, start, telling Jason Pinnock what to do. I don't think that's exactly going to be what his leadership role in year one's going to be, but set an example, working hard. If he's the guy that has, I don't know who's going to have the green dot and how they're going to work that this year. I'm guessing it's going to be Okereke, but we'll have to wait and see how that goes. But I think, all three guys I thought were excited to get started. But again, just don't take a whole lot of what happened on the field today, because there just wasn't a whole lot going on.
The leader item, John, in describing it as he was talking about the leadership thing, and he was asked about, what are you trying? He goes, look, I'm trying to learn as much as possible and be a sponge and then give it to the other guys and help them out. How many guys do that the first day of work? He's actually looking to help other people out. He just got here. You would think a guy would be so worried about his own house and nervous and trying to make a good impression. And here is this guy so unselfish as to say he's trying to absorb as much as he can so we can also help the other guys. That's pretty, I'll be honest, that was pretty cool to me when I heard him say that.
It was. All right, let's open up the phones, Paul. 201-939-4513. Give us a call. We're not going to get to you right away, but I want to get as many people in line as we can at 201-939-4513. If you've called already this week, folks, you can call on a second time. This is a weird time for a Friday show. I'm pretty sure we're not going to get a ton of calls today. So if you want to call a second time this week and you want to get on, give us a call, and we'll get you up right here on Big Blue Kickoff Live. All right, Paul. The other good thing about today, because I know fans wanted to hear about the drafted players first and everything that happened. The Giants always wait until rookie minicamp day to announce their undrafted free agents. So while these names have been filtering around the internet for a while, the Giants do not finalize those undrafted rookie contracts until after the players pass their physical, which happened yesterday. So we got the contracts announced today. So we can finally talk about the guys they signed as undrafted free agents. So let's start with the guy that is technically an undrafted free agent, but he's going to be their exemption player under the International Player Program. And that's Jude Makatami the place kicker out of Rutgers.
Yeah.
This guy's got and you saw it today when he was kicking. He's got a monster leg. We need to see how accurate it is, but he's got a big leg.
Well, I don't necessarily know that the Giants need a kicker. We don't have any really indication from Graham Gano exactly where he is. I think he's doing well with his rehab.
But we don't know how much he's going to be able to, or want to kick in the spring.
And that's why the kicker's here.
You need a guy that can kick.
You need somebody. So don't think automatically like, oh, this guy's brought in to be a serious competitor for Gano. We just don't know what Graham's going to do before the season starts. But it's certainly encouraging to see a guy who, by the way, they've got two international guys. They got an international punter from Australia, and they got the international kicker, who you just mentioned.
The punter's a tryout, though.
Yes,
correct?
he's a tryout.
He's a tryout.
So I'm waiting for the linebacker from Czechoslovakia.
Why'd you pick Czechoslovakia?
I don't know. It's just another international player.
Technically, by the way, I do not believe Czechoslovakia is actually a country anymore.
Not anymore.
I believe it is now the Czech Republic,
Exactly.
if I'm not mistaken.
Exactly, it is.
It's like Burma and Myanmar, so you have to make sure you get your
There you go.
country straight, Paul.
And remember, we got Nathan Rourke. We got a quarterback from Canada. Although he wasn't here today.
Next time you'll be talking about like the Ottoman Empire, Austria-Hungary.
But yes,
all over it.
To John's point, they do have now a kicker who I would expect, even if Gano's doing really well, John, why would you have him do much during training camp?
No. Especially coming off an injury. There's zero.
Right.
Basically, you say, this is what you do. You say, hey, Graham, welcome back. It's good to see you. What exactly would you like to do in the spring? And whatever he tells you, that's what you do.
You may even wind up seeing this kid kick in the preseason.
It's possible. I mean, I'm sure Graham wants to do something.
He'll probably get a couple, but I'll be frank with you. I'm not expecting to see much of him at all until week one.
It's actually a really good use of the player program.
Sure it is. Why not?
Because he doesn't take a roster spot up.
Exactly.
But it gives you a way to kind of fill that role, which is nice.
Yeah, and what you know is, at the very least, even if Gano wants to do some extra points and extra points and field goals,
yes,
the kickoffs, you let this kid do the kickoffs.
I can't believe you spent that much time on the kicker.
I know. I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. Yeah, I think it was a good conversation. All right, 2 wide receivers, Paul. Let's start with John Giles, wide receiver out of West Florida, which is a Division II school.
Mm-hmm.
They are the Argonauts, which ironically, he had to tried to play in Canada at some point. So it actually is a little ironic, but he's a bigger wide receiver. He's kind of up your alley. I think he ran in the low 4.5s, but he's 6'2", he's 219. So he's a guy that he was a big play monster down there. It was Division II, and he averaged almost 20 yards a catch. He was a guy they would just chuck it deep to, so I think he has some work to do on, route running and learning the art of playing wide receiver, but he's got a physical tool set that's interesting.
And when you have that skill set, you're always going to get a look at by somebody. I have not seen any video on him, John.
I actually I watched around.
Did you get some?
Do you know why? PFF they don't do Division II, but they had one game against a Division I team where he had 7 targets.
Did they?
So I watched the 7 targets in that
right.
one game.
Well, am I going to be excited?
Vertical, straight ahead type of athlete. That game he did have a drop or 2. I'm not gonna lie.
Did he?
Yes.
Okay.
But he's a guy that has a physical tool set to be a big vertical wide receiver, and you try to smooth out the rough edges, and you see what you got.
You know what I tell people is that on the practice squad, you're going to have some guys who are devoted to the practice squad simply to be scout players. You don't necessarily think that they'll develop for you, but you know that they can be good scout players to replicate what you're going to face during the season. And if this guy can show them really good speed and really good height, even if it's not enough to be a prospect for the Giants, he can be a scout player, and it can help work against the defensive backs so that they can get a look at a guy of this physical stature.
Yeah, and the funny thing, Paul, we're going to see the Giants really roll the dice on a lot of guys that tested extremely well, that they think that they can kind of turn into better football players, but have a good athletic base. So we'll kind of get through these guys. Ayer Asante, wide receiver out of Wyoming, Paul, Jersey guy, local guy. Went to. Oh, by the way, trivia question. If you guys want to call in, John Giles went to Virginia Union. Call up and don't give the answer because I know you know it. Call up. Tell us what famous New York athlete in the last 30 years attended Virginia Union in college. I know you know the answer.
All right.
So don't give it.
I'm not going
I'm
there.
going to see if one of our older fans might know the answer to that.
I'm not going there. You don't have to be that old.
Paul, sadly, you kind of do.
Is he really out of the league that long?
Yeah.
Oh, man. And he's a little gray now, too. Actually, a lot gray, isn't he?
If you're not 40, or 35 at the least, you're going to have a hard time getting this.
I got
anyway,
you. I got you.
So the second wide receiver poll they brought in was Ayer Asante. Again, former local guy, went out to Wyoming. Where did he play before Wyoming?
Holy Cross.
Holy Cross. Thank you. I knew it was a local squad. I couldn't remember which one. Again, he's a smaller guy. He's a guy that could be a punt returner. Not a ton of production, but he's a guy that I think could be a factor in the return game.
Sussex County, Franklin, New Jersey.
Yeah.
Local product. You guys know from watching this show, we love FCS guys, John and I, because we get to work with a lot of these FCS players in our league. I mean, that's what it is, the Northeast Conference. So I will never poo-poo a guy who gets an opportunity to show his wares from the FCS level.
All right, two other offensive players, Paul, and Marcellus Johnson. This is the guy I'm probably the most excited about. 6'4", 307. He went to Western Michigan for 3 years, entered the transfer portal, got a lot of offers, went to Missouri. Then the offensive line coach that recruiting him to Missouri left, went to Purdue. He played right guard where, he had never played that position before. He was a tackle at Western Michigan. Played like 2 games, got his ankle rolled, and missed the whole year pretty much. So if you go back to his Western Michigan tape, apparently teams like UCLA and Ohio State, they're all offering NIL deals when he entered the transfer portal. So he's a guy that I think at 6'4", 307, his athletic testing was also, I think, in like the 94th percentile. I'll double check that. But he's a guy that I think has a chance, Paul, if he plays well enough, that could maybe make that final 53 as your second backup tackle.
I think, and you could also double-check this for me, John, I think of all the undrafted rookie free agents that the Giants signed.
71st percentile athletically RAS, by the way. I apologize.
Yeah, I think you could make a strong case that he probably has the most impressive big-time resume of the UFAs.
Yeah, in terms of what he did at the collegiate level, I agree with that.
I think that's the fairest way to say it. Now, does that mean he automatically has the best chance to make it? No, it does not. But it certainly makes you intrigued and makes you want to take a really close look at him and see. The fact that also he was all academic when he was at the Mid-American Conference, gives you an idea about his acumen. And once again, we've been told from looking at the class, the draft picks even, forget about the free agents, the Giants, we could tell, they wanted guys who were on the ball.
And I think we've seen that with Joe Shane over the last couple of years. And look, he's 6'4", he's 307. I think he's pretty lean. He's got 33-inch arms. I think he just looks the part. I thought he moved around pretty well today. I thought he looks like he's a fairly athletic guy. So I was pretty happy with what I saw out of Marcellus Johnson today. He's definitely got to keep an eye out on the offensive line. And then you have Jake Kubas, North Dakota State, Paul. He's a guy that tested off the charts.
He sure did.
Really good testing numbers. North Dakota State has developed a really strong program, even though they are one of those, FCS programs, not the FBS. But, good player, very athletic. He has a lot of starting experience. So you hope he's the right guard. He can come in and try to compete for a practice squad spot or maybe push one of the guys for a back-end roster spot.
When the report came out about a week or so ago, or maybe it was right after the draft, that he was going to wind up being at Giants rookie camp, I immediately said, okay, the red light goes on because you got to take a look. You have to take a look. This is a program, I believe I looked it up last year. I think they had 5 offensive linemen on NFL rosters last year.
No, they've done a good job.
Okay, North Dakota State, they feed these guys like the best cattle and the best beef you could possibly get your hands on because these guys, that's what they do. They are dominant in the trenches at the FCS level, and they send guys into the NFL. I forget the offensive line coach's name. I put it up on Twitter a couple of weeks ago, but he's got the reputation of being an offensive line guru who brings out the best in these guys and makes them another level above what they were supposed to be.
All right, let's jump to the defensive side of the ball here, Paul. Up front, Casey Rogers. This is a guy who was tested, and by the way, Kubas was in the 94th percentile of testing according to RAS. Well, Casey Rogers is in the 98th percentile of testing in the RAS. He's about 300 pounds. He's that 3-technique defensive tackle that we were talking about them trying to draft. The production Oregon isn't great. He was a late transfer there from Nebraska, correct, if I remember properly?
Yes.
And he is a very good athlete. You can even see his get-off in some of the drills in practice today. Again, not the biggest guy, but he's got the ability to get upfield and penetrate a little bit.
They listed him at 6'5", 305. I did not look at any video on him at all, but here's what's interesting about it. I remember when the Giants grabbed Jordan Riley in the 7th round last year from Oregon, and talking to some of the Giants folks afterwards, they said, you know what? We happen to see him. The measurables are there. He's intriguing. You just don't get a lot of people with those physical tools, with those kinds of numbers at that position. So that's why we took a shot at him. I got a feeling that at some point last year, when they saw Jordan Riley, they probably saw and took a look at Casey Rogers as well. I'm just going to take a flyer and assume that, because he comes out of the same Ducks program. And I don't know. I'm just thinking in the back of my mind that he was kind of whispering to them all along for the past year that, hey, don't forget about me if I happen to be available.
All right, then let's go to the edge position, Paul. Ovi Ogufo, I believe that's the
yes, it is.
pronunciation.
I just checked on
right?
it. It is Ogufo.
Again, he was 77th percentile testing in RAS, had a 1.63 10-yard split, 4.85 40-yard dash. Almost 34-inch arms, which is a measurement that I really like for a guy that plays the edge.
Absolutely.
Otherwise, a little undersized, 6'3", 248. He's not going to be a bruiser that's going to set the edge against some 320-pound offensive lineman. But he was one of those situational pass rushers for LSU to get off the edge and get after the quarterback. Put him in the edge room, and you see what you can do.
Third school. Played at Texas, played at Notre Dame, then winds up at LSU. I don't know. Is that part of the reason why his numbers were never any better? Because he was constantly moving around and he wound up in 3 different programs with all these different schemes and all these different responsibilities, and he could never settle in and mature at one place? Maybe. Maybe not. But you know what? Again, this is exactly the kind of guy you want to take a flyer on during May at rookie minicamp, because there may be something there, and this is the month where you take a chance. And let's face it. I mean, who's he competing against? Right now, the 4th edge rusher, right, on the Giants roster is Tamon Fox. So let him fight it out with Tamon Fox, and may the best man win.
All right, then finally, Paul, you have Alex Johnson, a cornerback prospect out of UCLA, 83rd percentile in terms of testing, according to relative athletic score. Also, got a lot of interceptions in his final year.
5 picks.
With the Bruins, Paul. So he's a little bit of an athlete, and he's got a nose for a football.
Well, again, we're talking about strictly athleticism and measurables.
6 foot 185, by the way. So he has a little height, which is good.
Interestingly, because they drafted the linebacker, Musau.
Musau, yep, you got it.
Okay, from UCLA in the 6th round this year. And I'm sure that while they were scouting Musau, they saw Johnson and probably put in the back of their heads, you know what? If this guy happens to fall out of the draft, let's give him a call. This happens a lot. You'll find out that a undrafted rookie free agent winds up coming from a school where they drafted a guy because they were concentrating on a particular guy about maybe making him a draft pick, and they saw somebody else out of the corner of their eye, and they say, well, you know what? Let's remember him.
We have a winner. M. Terrence Jones on Twitter.
Got it?
Virginia Union, the home of
impressive.
The Oak Tree, Charles Oakley.
Very impressive. Nice job.
Well done. Also,
nice job.
Home of Ben Wallace, which I also kind of forgot about that. So, yes.
2 very physical rebounders.
Yeah, I would definitely put them in that same category. All right, folks, 201-939-4512. Just a reminder, go subscribe to that Giants Huddle podcast. We mentioned some of the episodes already. Subscribe on your favorite podcast platform, Giants.com/podcast, Giants mobile app. The video versions are on the Giants YouTube page. Go subscribe. And our final draft season is up this week, too. Go subscribe to that podcast. Tony Pauline and I take a look ahead at the 2025 draft class. 201-939-4513. I probably should actually bring up the caller sheet before I go to calls here.
Okay.
So in the meantime, I'm going to remind people that they can go download Giants TV, the Giants direct streaming app. It has all our video content, all of our shows, highlights, all that stuff. You can find it on all your smart TV services. It's also part of the Giants app in the Apple Store, the Apple Play Store, the Google Play Store, and the Apple Store. So go check all that out. On the Giants app, and Giants.com/tickets, folks. If you want to become a Giants season ticket member, connect with the team all year round, not just on game days. You take your fandom to the next level. To learn more, again, go to Giants.com/tickets for your tickets to the 2024 season. Also, just a note, They were asking Malik Neighbors about his number 9.
Yes.
And he was quick to point out that that is a temporary number.
All the rookie numbers are temporary.
I don't think Nubin's changing.
Probably not.
Because that 31 has some history with Minnesota
It
and
does.
the way they played.
It does.
So I'm thinking Nubin's not going to change. But I like 20. 22 is a good cornerback number 2 for Andrew Phillips.
Well, sure.
I like 22 as a cornerback number. So my advice to Phillips would be to stick with that. It's a good number. But Nubin was pretty clear that that is not his final destination there on his number.
You mean Neighbors?
I mean Neighbors. Sorry, Neighbors. Neighbors was very clear.
Neighbors
that
wanted
was
to
not
know
the final destination on his number.
He wanted to know how it looked on him.
He wants to watch himself on film to see how the number looks. That's what he said. I'm serious.
Which, hey, I love his honesty.
Why not?
I love his honesty, but at the same time, Graham Gano has already said he's not giving it up.
Yeah, someone else tried to get that number from Graham at some point. I forget who it was.
Well, Thibodeau got it 5 from him.
Yes.
Right. And because he had donate a check to, I believe it was a dog shelter, if I'm not mistaken, that Gano had picked out, and he was willing to move from 5 to 9. But from what I understand now, Graham has already said he's not willing to give up his 9.
Okay, that's interesting. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Are there any available single-digit numbers on the roster?
Jeez. Well,
I should have probably looked at
Paris Campbell's number 0. Right?
Giles is wearing number G0 right now, the undrafted rookie, but that's probably
not going to. Yeah, that's not going to stick.
6 is Bryce Ford Wheaton last year, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now on the
although Ford Wheaton is back with the team this year off of IR, so
number 1 is retired, right?
Mm-hmm.
Number 4, I believe, is also retired.
Mm-hmm.
Kayvon's 5, Bryce Ford Wheaton, and Jamie Gillen is also 6, Pearson. So those are 2 guys that are 6.
Right.
7, I believe, is retired.
Mm-hmm.
Daniel's 8, obviously, and Gano is 9. And 10 is retired, too. So not a whole lot of single-digit availability, which is where these receivers like to go generally. So we'll see where Malik Neighbors winds up here. And
I think
frankly,
zero is a candidate.
12 with Waller, 13 Hyatt, 15 DeVito, 17 Robinson. There's not a whole lot in the teens that's available either.
No.
18 Hodgins. So I'm trying to remember what number. I watched this film so many times. Was he 6 at LSU, Neighbors? Or 2? Number 2, I think?
Oh, God.
I think he was 2 at LSU.
I don't
Neighbors.
remember.
I got to remember going back watching that tape. But it was him, and I'm pretty sure he was number 2 now that I think a little bit harder about it. 201-939-4513. 201-939-4513. Let's go to the phones and lead off our show with Maurice in Montclair. Maurice, what's going on?
Gentlemen, I'm glad to lead off the show. How are you doing?
Long time no speak, Maurice. What's going on, man?
He was 8.
He was 8. Thank you.
Yep.
Just hanging. I got some fun stuff for you guys. Real quick, I would love to see this on Giants.com. Like Bob Papa come on, like, hello, good afternoon. This is Bob Papa, whatever, and talk about the kick returns and like the history of some great kick returns that's been in this organization, and the fact that it's going to be a whole new look about it. You know, that would be something cool. But here's another.
Why do you want Bob Papa to do that, Maurice? Like, do you think he has some kind of special teams expertise or something?
No, because Bob Papa always break down everything. He'd be like, good afternoon, welcome to Giants.com. The NFL kick return has been something wonderful or whatever, and then he'll just show the Giants' significance within that element. He's always sort of done these, like, little special breakdowns.
Sounds good.
All right, so here goes a fun one for you, and then I got like a serious question.
Okay.
So the fun one is Wan'Dale Robinson. I'm going to give 830 yards for you guys to think over or under, right? And then the serious question is, I was sitting here thinking, who are the best Giant tandems at cornerback? Now, the only criteria I'm asking you guys to judge on is at least 2 or 3 years playing together and impact along with production. Who would you guys say is the Giants' best cornerback tandems? And I'll listen off the air.
Thank you, Maurice. Boy, just thinking off the top of my head, I mean, that's a really tough question. I mean, since I've been here,
Mark Collins and Perry Williams, hands down.
Yeah, well, I don't go back that far.
That's the best.
How about in the last 20 years, Paul? If you would it be Sam Madison and Corey Webster?
Yeah, I'd go for that. Sure, I'd go for that.
That's probably better than what they had in 11.
But here's what I will say.
And that was who was the corner across from Corey in 08? Was that Ross? Was Aaron Ross the starter?
Aaron Ross was here.
Yeah, so Ross would have been the other
But he
guy.
was always hurt.
Yeah, I know. That's why I'm thinking Madison and
You see,
Corey maybe.
If you only go for like a year, Willie Peterson and Will Allen was a real good combination too.
But they didn't have any production, though.
Well, the other thing is they didn't last long because Will Peterson wound up with a bad back, and even though Allen lasted longer, and then he got replaced by Sam Madison because they flipped free agent deals with the Dolphins.
How about Sehorn and wasn't he with Flippy Sparks?
Yeah,
that was pretty good. That's pretty good tandem.
The thing with Sehorn is that once the kick return busted his knee, he was never the same.
Well, also take the 3 years before the kick return.
Yeah,
he was with Sparks. That's who he was with, right?
Yeah, but I'm trying to figure out how many years they actually started together. That's the tricky part. That's the tricky part. I'm definitely going Perry Williams and Mark Collins. That to me, hands down.
Well,
Perry Williams, Mark Collins.
If you really want to go back,
well, that's going back. That's going back to the '80s.
Well, I'm going back further. Go back further. You're talking of Emlyn Tunnell.
Yeah.
And then, who was Dick Lynch's teammate that he always talks about? John Cope? Is that what was his last name? I'm trying to remember. We've done all this history with the with a lot of the stuff we're doing this offseason, and I'm trying to remember what the name of the corner was. He's second in franchise history in interceptions. I think, what was his name? It's killing me inside. I will look it up.
You're throwing me for a complete loss there.
I'm going to go back. It was Dick Lynch's teammate along with Emlyn Tunnell. And I'm trying to remember who that third DB was in that group. And I can't remember the guys. I can't remember
Jimmy Patton was a safety. Jimmy Patton was like all-pro safety. He was a really big deal. He was in that backfield. But you can't pick Jimmy.
So maybe is it Dick was a corner. Maybe it's Dick Lynch and Emlyn Tunnell. Maybe that's your best corner tandem.
Oh, shoot. Oh, Giants-Packers. Oh, my goodness. I'm so embarrassed. I'm blacking out on him. He played with the Packers after the Giants. I'm sticking with Collins, Perry Williams because that's the best corner tandem I've ever seen in my lifetime. I've watched the Giants since 1969. That's the best I'd ever seen.
What was the serious question? He had a serious question.
Go ahead.
Remember what it was.
I don't remember what it was.
It was Wandale over under 850.
So Paul, you answer that. I'm gonna get the year. I'm gonna get the yearbook here, and I'm gonna figure out the guy that I'm forgetting.
All right, I'm going back here. The former Giant who later played with Green Bay. I'm looking. Who was my guy? Oh, we later played with Green Bay. I'm not thinking a lot of history these days.
Wandale Robinson, Paul. Over under 830. Go there first.
Wandale Robinson, 830. I will say.
I would go
under. I will say under.
I think he'll be around 750 though. I think he'll be around 700.
Erich Barnes.
Yeah, that's who I was thinking of too.
There we go.
That's who I was thinking of too.
Played for the Packers after the Giants.
Yes.
Erich Barnes. That's it.
Yes. Let me see here.
Yeah, Barnes and Dick Lynch certainly would be right up at the top if you're talking about all-time corner tandems. But again, I go back to 69 when I started watching the Giants. For me, it's got to be Perry Williams and Mark Collins, and that's hands down. They were just absolutely outstanding.
All right, 201. I'm going to keep looking for through the all-time records here, see if there's someone that I'm forgetting. Let's go to Cliff in New York. He's up next. Hey, Cliff.
Hey, guys. Long time no see.
What's up?
Yeah, I wanted to talk about progress in the roster, but first I just wanted to clarify about the kickoff, man. I mean, I loved the kickoff for 1,000 years. I just got used to them taking it away. I mean, one of the very first games I ever watched is a thrilling end of the game. Johnny Unitas is driving down against the Lions, and with 10 seconds left, he hits Lenny Moore for a touchdown, and you figure, oh, that's that. And the Colts kick off to the Lions, and they return it all the way for a touchdown, and they win. I mean, I'm totally familiar with how thrilling it is. I just got used to them taking it away. I didn't like it, but I got used to it. And
so hold on, but Cliff, that's what I don't understand. If you didn't like them taking it away, why would you be unhappy about them bringing it back?
Because the way they brought it back seemed so radical. You know, it was like, what's this? You know, I mean, I'm sure I'm going to try to get used to it, but I mean, it's going to be very difficult. It seems like they introduced a whole new part of the game. You know, it's like new. It's not bringing back the kickoff. It's bringing back something different. I mean, it doesn't matter if I'm against it. It's in for a year. and I'm going to watch every play, you know, and I'm not going to write letters that they should get rid of it because they're going to sort it out themselves. I mean, this comes from the competition committee, right?
Yeah, obviously. What's your second point, Cliff?
Okay, on building the roster, you know, the other thing that Joe Shane owned up to, besides the special teams, was he said it was his bad that when the catastrophe happened on the OL, we didn't have enough depth, and he showed that he was taking care of that too, with those extra signings besides Illuminor and the Green Bay guy Runyon. So that all made me think of what you said, John, when these guys took over, which was 3 to 5 years for the roster. And I kind of grabbed onto that because, you know, I know what it means to have to be patient as a Giants fan, and it comes naturally to me, actually. And when we got into the third year and Joe Shane finally had some money to spend, when he had a very little bit of money to spend the first year, I thought he did a lot. And then when he had a little more, he did even more. And then this year he had a really decent amount, and he still hasn't seen how much, you know, money a GM can really have in the NFL to, you know, in cap space till next year, the fourth year.
Yeah, what's your overall point here, Cliff?
That year 3 to 5 is right on the nose, because I was hoping that year 3 would be a turning point in the roster overall, and I think he's got it. I think he's got a turning point in the roster. I think that it's just like totally different than it was, but it's still not elite. It's still not competing with the best rosters that we go against.
Okay. Appreciate the call, Cliff. Thank you. I was thinking of Jimmy Penn. I didn't realize he was a safety and not a quarterback.
Oh, yeah. Hit like a truck.
I mean, and he just got into the Ring of Honor, but he was like a 5-time first-team All-Pro, like really, really great player.
Sparks and Sehorn had 2 years together before Sehorn blew out his knee.
Just 2, huh?
It was only 2. Okay. That's why I have a hard time going there. But then again, William Peterson and Will Allen didn't have a lot of time together either. That's why, you know, those guys got.
And neither did Corey Webster and Sam Madison.
No, so they all get like an asterisk. For me, it is
right.
Perry Williams and Mark Collins, hands down.
Yeah, that was a little bit before my time, but yeah, I mean, and you could go back, Paul. I mean, you can make the argument that it's Dick Lynch and Tunnell. I mean, you could make that argument.
I got no problem with that. Those guys are all-time great Giants. I mean, they're not even like on another tier. No, they are all-time. They're right at the top.
And they were together for a long time, too. So
yeah.
That whole group. You know, that was one of the reasons they were so good in the 50s.
I mean, Barnes, I want to say Barnes and Dick, were they together 5 years?
Let's see.
Or 4 years?
Dick was there from 59 to 66. Let's look up Mr. Barnes.
I bet you it's at least 4, maybe 5.
Barnes was there from 61 to 64.
So 5. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah, 5 years.
5 years.
61 to 64,
yeah.
They were both there.
Yeah. So, yeah. Great. We love the names.
Yes.
We love the names.
Yes, and we also enjoy some Giants history. Let's go to Hugo in New Jersey. He's up next. Hi, Hugo.
Hey, good afternoon, guys. Just to chime in on the cornerback discussion, I was thinking about trios, and best trio, unfortunately short-lived, Perry Williams, Mark Collins, and Everson Walls. I don't think you could beat that trio.
No, and even though Walls played a lot of safety when he was here, but yes, I agree.
And then Terrell Thomas, Aaron Ross, and Corey Webster. Again, short-lived, but that was quite a trio.
Very short. Yep.
Yeah,
I think that was about 3 years, right? That was like 08 to 10 before T2 blew out his knee.
Well, that's the problem.
Exactly.
The injuries.
Yeah. Yep.
And Ross was hurt practically every week. He was here.
Well, Aaron Ross kind of had that sprinter's body. It was always with him.
Always had hammies.
So I joined a bit late, so I don't know if you covered this, but I just want to chime in and welcome Chris Snee back into the family.
Yeah, we actually did not mention that. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, look, Paul and I actually discussed this. I don't know if you recall. I think you were on with Matt at the time, Paul. And I was making a point that I believe there is such a thing as positional blind spots across organizations, and that would be very much in favor of bringing in Chris Nee with his offensive line background. I think there were some overtures back in 2022. So I'm glad the Giants made this move. I mean, look, they changed the offensive line coach. Now they're bringing in a scout with offensive line specialty. I think they're doing everything possible to make sure that these offensive line issues are gone or not a thing in the future. So
look, Hugo, they've been open to having Chris back for a while, but he had young kids. He was like coaching them and stuff like that. So I don't think he was really ready for like a super duper full time role yet. But now he is, because his kids are a little bit older. So it's great to have him here, and hopefully you're right. He will help the offensive line scouting process. And by the way, he isn't just doing offensive line. By the way,
no, he's doing everything.
Everything. But yes, you're right. They will respect a lot of what he has to say about
without a doubt.
Offensive linemen.
Yeah, you guys talking about the new kickoff rules made me go back and read the rule a bit, and I have a couple of questions about that. But before I get into that, I listened to the interviews of the coordinators. I must say I was really impressed by the new special teams coach. He seems like a very good communicator and someone who thinks strategically but is also down in the weeds and can execute tactically. And in my view, that always makes for the best leader. I thought Mike Kafka was a lot more comfortable with the media, and the thought that came to mind is that might be part of his developmental plan to eventually become a head coach. Because someone made a comment, I think it was Joe Shane, that they're getting him ready to be a head coach. I thought I heard him say that.
It was Dable, actually, I think that said that. They're like including him in meetings with the trainers and stuff like that to just do more of the stuff that a head coach would be doing during the week. And I think, too, he's probably a little more comfortable with the media. And again, I think probably that's a goal of his because he's trying to learn how to do that. He's also, it isn't a game week yet, where he's prepping for a game and you're trying to keep everything secret to not give the other team a competitive advantage. So it's a lot easier to be a little bit more open and chatty in March and April than it is in September, October.
No, that's understandable. Bowen, I was just like, he didn't really move me one way or another, but he did make what I thought was a weird comment when he said that when he looked at the film of the Giants' defense, his impression was that they had good depth. And the only thing I could think of is he was looking at film with Ashawn Robinson, Leonard Williams, Xavier McKinney, and Adoree Jackson, because as we've talked about, there are a bunch of murky spots on the Giants' defense. Of course, the drafting of Newman helps, but I just found that to be a weird comment. Maybe that was a throwaway, but I just found it odd. Now, to the new kickoff rule, there is a requirement that at least 9 guys line up in what's called the setup zone for the receiving team.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Right? But based on what I read, it kind of suggested that it would be advantageous to have 2 guys back in what's called the landing zone. So that goes from the receiving team's 20 to the goal line.
Yeah, you have to, because otherwise it'll be too easier for the kicking team to directionally kick that sucker, and then you won't get a return out of it.
Exactly.
Correct.
So what that suggests is that one guy will catch the ball, and then the other guy will turn into a blocker.
Yeah, in theory.
And that, I think, dovetails with your comments yesterday that the ideal profile for the return, I'll use plural, the returners, are guys who are both speedy and somewhat powerful, but not only because they need to break tackles, but also because they need to turn into blockers.
They got to have some beef on their frame.
Yeah, because to your point, you don't want Jalen Hyatt being a lead blocker on a kickoff return. That's not going to go well.
Or Wan'Dale Robinson.
No, that's true, too.
And the way this is set up with a 5 to 10 yard running start that the defending team has, it's essentially like picking up a blitzing linebacker.
Yeah,
again, it kind of suggests that the running backs would be the ideal guys to do that role. And the 2 guys that came to mind, you mentioned one yesterday, was Tracy. The other guy is Miller. He's short, but he's like 210 pounds.
Yeah, he's stocky, correct.
Little turbo.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah. So, and one thing that wasn't clear to me when I read the rules is if a ball lands in that landing zone, but is not fielded cleanly and makes it into the end zone, what happens in that? So in other words, not touched by the returner. It just kind of
30-yard line. 30-yard line, touchback.
It is a touchback?
Kick hits in end zone, stays in bounds, returned or downed. If downed, then touchback to 30-yard line.
Wow, so that's...
I'm reading it now. Let me, guys, because it's a waste of time to even talk about this rule because there are about 30 bullet points to the new rule.
It's the
to be frank, it would take 7 hours to go through this. So, Hugo, I really don't even want to waste time on it. Go to the NFL operations website because they've got the new kickoff rule update.
All right, you know what, Paul?
On a full page.
I have like 4 quick notes that I'll give just off of this. I'll be real fast.
You're looking at it. It's got like 30 bullet points.
Right. Well, I'm going to give the rules in terms of touchbacks and returning because I think that's what he was asking about. Real quick. All right. The landing zone, and it's important. The landing zone is the area between the goal line and the 20-yard line. Okay, that's an important thing as I go through the rest of these rules. Any kick that lands short of the landing zone, it's treated as though the kick is out of bounds and the ball gets spotted at the 40-yard line. So you know what that tells you? No more squib kicks.
Right.
They're out. Okay? Any kick that lands in the landing zone between the 10 and 20-yard line, and between the goal line and the 20-yard line, must be returned. So if it lands there and rolls into the end zone, you cannot down it. That kick must be brought out and it must be returned, which is why you have to have 2 returners back there.
No.
Otherwise, you're in a lot of trouble.
I think if it rolls into the end zone, you can down it because it comes out to the 20. If it rolls into the end zone.
Correct, yes, but it only goes to the 20.
Right.
It does. Correct. You know what? I don't know why they would put that on a separate bullet point.
That's what I'm trying to say.
This is silly, though. I have an issue with the league. They have a bullet point that says, no, listen to this. They have a bullet point that says, any kick that hits in the landing zone must be returned.
Right.
Then the next bullet point says, any kick that hits in the landing zone and then goes into the end zone can be down by the receiving team. Well, then it must not be returned if you can down the damn thing.
Now,
Sorry.
do you understand why this thing is a mess?
And then real quick, there's only 2 more nuggets here. If the kick hits in the end zone, stays in bounds, returned or downed. If down, then it goes to the 30-yard line. So if you kick it into the end zone as the kicking team and it gets downed in the end zone, does not land before the goal line, has to land past the goal line.
Right.
That goes back to the 30.
Yep.
And any kick that goes out of the back of the end zone in the air or on a bounce gets touched back to the 30-yard line. Correct.
Like I said yesterday, the officials are going to make mistakes with this. The players and the coaches are going to have trouble with it, and I guarantee you the officials will make mistakes too.
These rules aren't. I think in terms of the touchbacks and the landing zones, I think they'll be okay.
Okay, but the landing zone is only 8 bullet points. There's about 30 of them on this page.
I think once you learn the alignment, I think you'll figure it out. Anyway, Hugo, finish up.
No. I mean, this goes to Cliff's point, which is it's an exciting play, but if you don't really understand all the nuances, I think it takes away from the excitement, right? Something will happen, and the fan will be, "What the hell just happened there?" without any anticipation. So I don't. It is a bit much, I think. But
here's
exciting.
Here's a rule I didn't know. So no, I did not know this. So and appreciate the call, Hugo. Good stuff. So in the past, when the wind blows the ball off the tee, right?
Yes.
The player usually comes and he holds it.
Mm-hmm.
That's no longer the case.
No.
You can use a kicking stick, which is basically it's like a little tripod with one thing coming out. And it'll kind of hold the ball for you because they don't want the player holding the ball to get a running start.
Correct.
Which could lead to injuries. I did not know that rule, actually.
I have one question that might be dumb. Are onside kicks just not a thing anymore?
Oh, here we go. Onside kick. That's the next bullet point, Pearson. Thank you. When the 4th quarter begins, the team trailing has the opportunity to declare an onside kick to the officials. But only in the 4th quarter. You cannot do it before then anymore, which is surprising. I don't know
that's
the case,
that's
but
part of the rule.
I wasn't aware of that
part
either.
Of the rule.
Current onside kick rules apply when you then try to go with the onside kick. So there we go. The setup zone and landing zone will not change with any penalties that carry over to kickoff. So if the kickoff gets moved forward or backwards, the landing zone is still between the goal line and the 20-yard line. So
Casillas' Saints onside kick no longer allowed.
Correct.
Yes. Yeah.
Correct.
No more surprise onside kicks. Those
Correct.
Those are out. 201-939-4513. I haven't talked to Charlie in Portland, Maine, I don't think, since the draft. Hi, Charlie.
Hey, John. Hey, Paul.
Hey.
Hey, how about Mark Haynes and Elvis Toast Patterson?
Well,
You remember them, Paul?
I always thought Elvis Patterson was better than he was given credit for, but because he got the nickname Toast after getting burned a few times early in his career,
Hello?
he never lived it down.
Charlie, we got you. We got you, Charlie.
And to be honest,
you
we got you. We're here, Charlie. It's all right.
Okay.
No, wait. So he got beat so many times as a young player, he got nicknamed Toast?
He was an undrafted
Yeah.
rookie free agent, and he came
boy.
to the Giants, and he won a spot, but he got burned a number of times early, so they called him Toast.
You know a nickname you don't want as a cornerback?
But you know what? He lasted
rough
for a
one.
few years, and he wasn't a bad
Yeah,
player.
he did. He was
wasn't
a
a bad
starter.
player.
That's
Yeah.
like
Yeah, he was a
nicknaming an
starter.
offensive lineman turnstile. It's not something you want
No,
generally.
but Charlie, you can't compare him to Perry Williams and Mark
No,
Collins.
I'm just kidding. I
Okay.
just threw him out there because
I understand.
I was not aware of the legend of Toast. That's
Yes,
interesting.
number
See, I-
34.
I learned something
you
new.
missed. Parcells, I think, gave him that name.
Yes.
That is not that. Now that is the least surprising part of the story. That is not a shock at all.
Correct.
Oh, God. Hey, look, if I have to listen to anything more about this stupid kickoff return, you know what they're going to do? They're going to kick it where they can put it out to the 30-yard line. It's only 5 more yards. It's not a big deal. Everybody thinks they're going to have all these run backs. They're not. 5 yards is nothing. So instead of the 25, they're going to put it on the 30. This is such a joke. But anyway, I digress.
Well, Charlie, you know what? I'll be curious to see. When you took a look at how this affected the XFL kickoff rule, that's not what happened with it.
No, it
So
didn't.
it'll be curious to see what they end up doing. You get to a point where there's a line of diminishing returns. If you remember, Charlie, if you're a kicker and you can really put this thing between the goal line and the 5, and your guys are that far down, you could tackle guys at the 15. Like, you can really do, if you're a good coverage team, that's 15 yards of field position. That's a big deal. And you know what? If they find that this new rule doesn't change it, you know what they'll do next year?
That'll be the end of it.
No, it'll go to the 35-yard line. Okay. No, I'm serious. That's what they do. They'll keep moving it until they get kickoffs.
You know what stinks? I predicted early in the season you'll see officials making mistakes on it. It's not going to be a reviewable play. So how about when a guy runs back a kickoff for a touchdown and there was a penalty, but they didn't see it or didn't understand it, and then you're going to see the replay on TV, and it's going to be like, oops,
I mean, holds
so
are
what?
still holds, though. It's not like
But
that
they'll-
those rules
they'll-
are different.
There'll be mistakes, I'm
you
sure
have
of it.
no faith in our officiating friends over at the league office to know these rules, huh? I'm going to get John Berger on the phone, and you're going to be in a lot of trouble. He's not going to be happy with you.
No, he will not. But he already knows how I feel about this. It's just too convoluted. But
You were
hey,
in favor of this rule. Have you changed your mind all of a sudden?
I'm in favor of it because I didn't want them to abolish the kickoff. I wanted it to stay in the game. And if there are exciting plays happening and it's better for safety, I'm absolutely in favor of it. But do I think there'll be mistakes? I do.
I think once you get to the regular season, everything will be fine.
All right. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, who's our quarterbacks? Who's throwing the ball to these guys today?
Oh, let's see here. We got a Princeton guy. Where is it?
I don't even know their names, to be honest
Ben
with
Bryant is from Northwestern. Liam Thompson is from Wabash.
you. One of those guys actually had a really good arm. I'm not
And
sure which one.
Blake Stenstrom is from Princeton. Those are the 3 guys throwing the ball today.
All right, that's great. I mean, what are we doing? I mean, all of a sudden now we're bringing in all these wide receivers. I mean, what do they think? The wide receivers are going to save this team? Really? You bring in Robinson, and then you bring in 2 undrafted free agents, and you got your number 1 wide receiver. All of a sudden,
Charlie,
it's
you
like
have
wide
you need 100. You need 90. How
need
many?
90.
90, right?
You gotta-
you have 90
you gotta
players here in
practice.
the spring.
You got to practice.
And if you have a chance to fill roster spots, you bring in guys at spots where your room might be a little bit short. That's it. It's not like that we need wide receivers. That you find the guys that have the best chance of making the team and you bring them in. I mean,
That's it.
It isn't
Well-
anything complicated.
Hey, you just watch NPR. That's just watch NPR.
You mean
You know who?
no? I
National Public Radio?
yeah, and you would listen to NPR. You wouldn't watch
That,
NPR.
that's Nathan Rourke. I just put the T in there because I'm calling him NPR.
Oh, God.
Just watch him, man, from the CFL. I'm telling you, this kid is going to he's going to hang in there. He's going to hang into the team. You watch.
He's your official 2024 offseason pet project, Charlie? Is that where we're going with this?
Yes, that's where we're going.
He can't even say it without laughing. It's to the point where he doesn't even believe his own stuff. He's trying not to laugh. He's like, Nathan Rourke's my guy. Come on.
NPR, I'm telling you guys. Hey, have a good weekend.
All right, thank you, Charlie. You have
Bye.
a good weekend, too. Always fun to laugh with you, buddy. And again, I've never seen Nathan Rourke throw a pass. He could be great. I have no idea. I'm not laughing at Nathan Rourke. Don't put me into that category. I'm laughing at Charlie because he's being Charlie.
I wonder if Charlie knows that he's more of a runner than he is a passer.
He was more of a runner. That's true.
Big time more of a runner. Anyway.
All right, final call of the show. Let's go to Rich in Virginia. Rich, you're up next on Big Blue Kickoff Live.
Good afternoon, gentlemen. Always a pleasure. A kickoff returner that I don't think even Godfather Dottino knows. John, you got the record book. This is totally from my memory.
Yeah.
He was a really good guy. Back in the 60s, and remember, I go back to 61, Clarence Childs.
Yes.
I think he might have the record for the longest kickoff return.
Yeah, he was a defensive back.
That's correct.
Sure.
That's correct. Okay, you remember him, right, Paul?
Sure, absolutely.
Yeah, good player. Second thing is, you mentioned a player today who blocked the kick on the Giants versus the Packers in the 62 championship game that led to the only touchdown we got.
That I do not remember.
Erich Barnes.
There you go.
Was it Barnes?
Nah, he was a really, really good player. People don't realize how good he was.
To be honest, I don't know why he doesn't get more Hall of Fame consideration.
I know. Well, he wound up going back to Cleveland. Remember, Paul?
Well, he was Cleveland, Green Bay, and the Giants.
Yep,
With three franchises, he was extremely highly thought of in the day.
Oh, yeah. Good player. Two more. One comment against, I can't believe I followed Charlie, but is Charlie applying to be the new scout in Joe Shane's scouting department? Because I remember a couple years ago he was adamant about this player from University of Maine at Orono, I think.
Yeah. It was the wide receiver, tight end convert.
That's
I don't remember his name.
Rising John?
Was it Miller?
It was
Miller?
It was
Is it
something.
Rising John or something?
Well, yeah, he liked him too.
He liked him too.
But it was Andre Miller. Andre Miller. And then before that, it was, remember he had his lobster bet with Jeff Feagles?
Oh, my God.
With Anthony Dobley?
Dobley! Oh, my goodness. Anthony Dobley.
So, Charlie, if you're listening so far, bud, you're 0 for 2. But a serious question, did you guys notice is Bryce Ford Wheaton out there? I know it's rookie minicamp.
No, not today.
And there were some guys from last year's class, like Deontay Johnson was out there. For
Yes, he
example,
was.
Today.
He was.
But no, Bryce Ford Wheaton was not out there yet. And I'm guessing that's because of the injury.
I know he has been rehabbing extremely hard, and his goal is to make sure that he's ready for training camp. So, and I, from what I understood, it was going well. And I think I said on the show about a month or so ago, don't totally forget about him because he had one hell of a summer last year.
All right, so I got a good one for you. Most seasons leading the league in kickoff returns for touchdowns, Clarence Childs, 1964, and he still holds the Giants' record for career kickoff return yards with 31,063. Who do you think number 2 is on that list, Paul?
For the Giants?
Yeah, I'll ask both of you guys. After Childs.
Ron Dixon.
He is not even in the top 10.
I was going to say Meggett.
David Meggett.
Oh, really?
Only 170 yards behind Childs at 29.89.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, he was terrific. Paul, I don't know, John, you don't remember Meggett, do you?
No, absolutely. David Meggett I remember really well. What I remember, for some reason, what stuck in my head, and, Meggett was doing his thing when I was like 12 years old or so.
Okay.
Remember he had that stretch where he fumbled a couple times, and Parcells got really mad, and for some
Well.
reason that's something that like stuck out in my head when I was young. But he was a pain in the butt. Like he got his hands on the ball. He was fun. Third down back too. Good player.
Yeah.
Outstanding player.
Do us a favor, please. I'm a West Virginia guy. That's why I've seen every one of Bryce Ford Wheaton's plays. Just please keep us up to date because I know Paul is Mr. Skyscraper centric, and he's one of your skyscrapers.
Yeah, he is.
Oh, Paul was ranting and raving about him last week. Don't you worry. Paul's got his eyes on him. Appreciate the call. Thank you very much. Paul will be watching him like a hawk.
I will. Definitely.
And I'm going to be tired about hearing about him depending on when he starts doing stuff, he doesn't do stuff till camp. It'll give me a little bit of a cushion, so I don't have to hear your Bryce Ford Wheaton propaganda. But it's just a matter of when it starts. Will depend on when I get tired of hearing from you about it.
The one thing that I will say, in addition to the fact that I'm going to be pulling for him hard, is that last summer when they started to give him special teams reps, and you will recall this, John, they gave him some chances on special teams, on the coverage units, and he was getting down there in a hurry. He was doing a really good job on kick coverage. I think he was going to make the 53 if he didn't blow out his knee. I do believe that. But, injuries happen.
They do. That's just the way it goes. Paul, enjoy your weekend, my friend.
Are we done?
Yes.
Wow.
We started at 2 o'clock. What time is it?
3 o'clock.
So we would be
We
done.
are done.
Yes.
You too. Go Knicks.
Good job on telling time. Congratulations. So there's another day of rookie minicamp tomorrow. Just stay tuned. If you want pictures or photos or articles, go check out Giants.com, all our social media platforms tomorrow as we continue to cover rookie minicamp. We'll be back with another episode of Big Blue Kickoff Live on Monday at 12:30. It's all brought to you by Cadillac, the official luxury vehicle of the New York Football Giants. For Paul Dottino, I am John Schmelk. Have a great weekend, and let's go Knicks.